Hello, thanks for joining us for an important training session about student voting. As you well know, Residence Life student leaders set the tone for campus culture for 4 or 5 years. Higher education has a duty to create educated citizens, and as Residence Life student leaders, you have the opportunity and responsibility to model civic leadership. CMU has a strong culture of student voting, but there is room to improve, and there are gaps to close across race, gender, and especially major. As you engage in conversations with your residents, we want to encourage you to help close this gap by empowering all your residents to vote.
Hi, my name is Katie Preblick. I am the student body president at CMU as well as a seat fellow at Central.
And hi, my name is Ellen Werman, and I am the Michigan State Director for the Campus Election Engagement Project. We partner closely with Central Votes, which you'll learn about soon, to do this work across campus. Thanks for partnering with us. As you know, residence life is centered in an educational priority that directly speaks to civic engagement. Voting is one of the most powerful ways students can responsibly impact your community. As you are creating learning opportunities for your residential community, voter engagement is a key strategy in the work towards equity and justice and social responsibility. Students are more likely to vote if they have the knowledge they need to access the polls. Our training today will prepare you to be able to provide your residents with the information they need to be empowered to vote.
As Ellen mentioned earlier, there already is a really strong foundation at CMU for student voting. Central Votes is a great organization that acts as both a student run organization as well as a campus coalition with faculty and staff and students. Central Votes is nonpartisan and it promotes voting at all elections, including local, state, and federal elections. As a student organization, Central Votes hosts a variety of events, including a Secretary of State mobile DMV on campus to encourage students to vote, as well as other educational campaigns and voter registration drives.
18 and 19-year-olds are unfortunately the least likely voters in the United States, largely because they don't know how or where to register, which is definitely the first step. As you discuss campus involvement and community engagement with your residents, make sure your students know that you are registered to vote and you encourage them to register to vote also. Here's the background on how to walk them through the registration process.
So, the basics. Here are the general requirements to be a voter in Michigan. You must be a U.S. citizen, you must be a resident of Michigan and of the city or township that you're registering in for at least 30 days. You must be at least 18 years of age by the next election date, and you cannot be currently imprisoned for a felony offense. But voting rights are restored once you're no longer incarcerated, but you do still need to re-register to vote if you fall under this category.
Here are some important dates and deadlines to make note of. We have a Tuesday, August 4th state primary here in Michigan. And of course, we all have the Tuesday, November 3rd general election. In Michigan, we have quote unquote 45 days of voting, which means you can obtain an absent voter ballot early and cast it immediately in person at the clerk's office. So you don't have to wait until the day of the election to vote. We all have no reason absentee voting. We'll talk about that later. And you can register up to and including on election day. So keep pressing your residents to register for as long as you can.
In Michigan, students may choose to register at either their campus address or at their permanent or home address. Students can choose which of these they want, but you can still only register and vote at one location.
Here's how students can register. Michigan residents can register online at michigan.gov/vote. You'll have a copy of this screen as well as all the slides so that you can use this active link. You must have the last 4 digits of your social security number and a valid state ID or driver's license in order to register online. Note that within 15 days of any election, including on election day, you must register in person. Online will no longer be active. Out-of-state students who wish to register in Michigan will need to use the paper registration form. Out-of-state students who wish to register in their home state can visit vote.org to learn if their state has online voter registration. Anyone can use a paper form. Paper forms must be returned 15 days in advance of the election. They can be returned by mail or dropped off. You can also register to vote in person at any county, city, or township clerk's office, or by visiting any Secretary of State branch office. Note that anytime you request or change your Michigan driver's license or ID at the Secretary of State's office, you will be automatically registered to vote, unless you opt out. You can register to vote on election day, but not at the polling site. You will need to visit a clerk's office.
As Ellen mentioned on the last slide, this is an example of a paper registration form. Remember that each section must be completed carefully, and don't forget to check the boxes at the top of the form. Paper registrations only required a driver's license ID number or the last four numbers of your Social Security. If returning form by mail, students can also make a copy of one of the listed identification documents to establish their residency. Enter the address for the Michigan location where you want to cast your ballot. Your mailing address may be different. So for example, you may want to vote at your home address, but have your ballot mailed to your campus address or vice versa. These are totally okay. Just make sure that you fill out the appropriate lines.
This QR code will also be in your resource packet and available on the slides. It's an easy thing to add to your flyers or onto door decks, whatever makes sense for you, but any student can use it to help them register to vote.
Another great way to help encourage students to vote is adding a link in your email signature. Your email signature essentially acts as a billboard to every email that you send, so why not encourage students to vote? You can use michigan.gov/vote or any of the other two links for a 50 state option.
Once students are registered to vote, they often have questions about where and how to vote. If you want to vote in person, even if stay-home orders are in place in November, polling sites will be open. Make sure to confirm your polling location at michigan.gov/vote in advance, as polling places can and likely will change. Polls will be open 7 a.m. to 8 p.m. And as long as you are in line by 8 p.m., you will get to vote. You can vote early at your local clerk's office up to 45 days in advance by requesting an absentee ballot, filling it out in the office, and immediately handing it back in. We're encouraging all youth to consider to sign up to be an election inspector. These are paid positions and are a great way to serve your community. You can also vote absentee. As a result of Prop 3 that was passed in 2018, all registered Michiganders now have the right to vote absentee with no excuse. Because of the ongoing pandemic, the Secretary of State has mailed absent voter applications to all previously registered Michigan voters. You can still request one if you're a new voter. You can do that as soon as you register to vote. Return the absent voter application to your local clerk in order to be mailed an absent voter ballot. Your application can be returned by mail, easily via email. Just take a picture, make sure the signature is visible, by fax if you still have access to that, or in person to the clerk. Return your absent voter ballot by mail or in person. Note that it is highly recommended that you mail your ballot at least 2 weeks prior to the election to ensure that it arrives to the clerk by 8 p.m. on election day. Otherwise, it will not be counted. You can always request and track your ballot's progress at michigan.gov/vote.
So these are some frequently asked questions that we get that your residents might ask you. Will where I register to vote affect my FAFSA or my federal financial aid? And the answer is no, it will not affect that at all. Similarly, students may ask if being registered to vote at a different address from their parents may prevent their parents from claiming them as dependents on their taxes. And the answer again is also no. Can an out-of-state student register to vote on campus or in Mount Pleasant? The answer is yes, they can. They just have to make sure to fill out a paper ballot or paper registration form. And if I register to vote in Mount Pleasant, will it affect my driver's license? So if the student is an in-state resident, then yes. It will automatically trigger the Secretary of State to update the driver's license address. And a student who does this will receive a sticker in the mail at the address that they register to vote. But if the student is an out-of-state student, then no. Registering to vote in Michigan will not affect students' driver's license or car registration, but they must prove that their current residence in order to vote. Can I vote absentee in August and or November? Yep. You get to choose how you vote in each election, and now you can also choose to be a lifetime absentee voter if you so choose.
Residential campuses face an especially daunting challenge this fall, given the COVID-19 crisis. Students are overwhelmed with constantly changing information, and in a normal fall semester, many students don't know or remember their on campus address. So, this fall, make sure that that information is easy for them to find. As stay home orders or quarantines change, it will be important to know that mailed absent ballots cannot be forwarded to a new address. So students may need to change their address online mid-semester should they go home or campuses close. You can always do this online at michigan.gov/vote. Know that your best resources are at michigan.gov/vote and the Central Votes website.
Some additional great websites are listed here, which you'll receive in an email and as well in your packet. If you have more questions, these are great places to go. And if they're not answered there, we would love to encourage you to email us. Our contact information's there. We're always here to help in any way that we can if you have any questions, comments, or concerns. Again, thank you so much for having us today for this really important conversation and training, and we look forward to continuing to build this relationship with Residence Life.